Hey guys, I'm Mohamed Sharaf. Thanks for agreeing, willingly or otherwise, to listen to me for about 45 minutes. As Sean said, I'm here to speak about Victron Energy, my family's company, and going to speak a little bit about our strategy, particularly as it relates to real estate growth and the future of our business. A little bit about Victron Energy, and you guys are probably thinking, what's this kid that looks like he's about 19 years old doing, speaking about travel centers? As you probably guessed, we're a family business, and my father started our company. So my dad was named Ali Sharaf. He was a civil engineer by training in Syria, and he immigrated to the United States, to Dallas in the late 1980s, and I think, like many folks here, began working as a cashier at a convenience store and began with nothing. So the top is a picture of my dad working at his very first convenience store, and the latter photo is a more recent picture of him in 2014. Unfortunately, my dad passed away from brain cancer in 2014, and so we try to continue his legacy and carry on as best we can. So in 1988, you can see a photo of my dad's very first store that he acquired, eventually that he started working as a cashier at. In 1996, the second location, or the second photo you can see, was the first ever convenience store that he built. And then the first truck stop my dad built was in Italy, Texas, that he built in the year 2000. So a few years passed, and my father kept building and building and growing. And I think, like many folks here, my dad increasingly felt like the service offering that we had was not enough, and that we wanted to create our own in-house brand that could create customer loyalty and attract folks to our stores. So in part inspired by some other travel center operators that had been successful, some with barbecue, some with jerky, some with their other in-house programs, my dad created our travel center brand called Texas Best Smokehouse in 2007. He built it across the street from the very first truck stop that he built in Italy. And we've become really proud of the barbecue and the jerky offerings that we have. I brought at the reserve table there as much jerky as I could physically stuff in my backpack for the folks here to enjoy. Here's a few photos of some of our barbecue and jerky offerings. One of the things my father was really big on was in-house control of as much of the production and quality as we could possibly manage. So we actually built a jerky manufacturing facility. We now have the largest exotic jerky manufacturing facility in the state of Texas, right next to our first travel center location. And we make and manufacture beef jerky, bison jerky, elk jerky, venison jerky, alligator jerky, python jerky, kangaroo jerky. We're testing crawfish jerky, and so on and so forth. And so the goal of these various types of jerkies that we have, and our goal in general, is we want to get people talking. We want folks to come into our stores, see the unique branding and offering, the Texas pride that we have, and have somebody talk to their family member, post on social media, hey, I tried kangaroo today, and the only place that you could find it is at Texas Best Smokehouse. As we've continued to evolve, my dad liked to call Victron Energy the custom home builders of convenience stores. And for us, this is really important. One, we obviously want to really focus on quality, but just as importantly, we really want to build and make our customers and our locals feel, and the travelers going through the interstate in each of the towns that we're in, that each location is completely localized to the town or the city that it's located in. And so every single location that we build is custom built and custom designed. And we found, obviously, one of the benefits is hopefully increased customer loyalty, increased customer sales, but a huge benefit that we've found is that, like many of you frequently face challenges working with cities and trying to find properties that I can zone and develop to be able to build a travel center with diesel fueling islands. And I think increasingly as the small rural towns in the interstates become more and more competitive, as more and more folks are building these inner city urban locations where you can impress the city with what you're doing, do something really individualized, and obtain that zoning in a kind of blue ocean where there's not a lot of competition. I think that's going to be an increasingly important part of our business if we all want to grow. So one example is a Texas Best Smokehouse location. This is a pilot store that we built in Denison, Texas. One of the things that we did, something that we push on a lot, you can see in that kind of third slide at the top, we had a artist in the city paint a 40-foot wide, 12-foot tall custom mural to the city of Denison. It's really Instagrammable. The football team comes and takes photos of it all the time. We built this location literally right in front of the high school in the city of Denison. And they had tremendous consternation about allowing us to build a travel center right in front of where all their kids are coming back and forth every day. But whenever we showed them that we were going to completely localize, hire local artists, do something completely unique that's an homage to the city, we received unanimous approval, and the store's doing great. One of the pieces of advice, something that's been incredibly helpful for us, I struggled often with finding capable architects that could help us realize the vision for the design that we wanted and help us to execute this really, really high quality AAA localized kind of development that I think almost all of us want to have and own and operate, and we want to show cities and municipalities to impress them. So we found a lot of success by, instead of focusing on maybe gas station or travel center focused architects, finding architects that have worked in the hospitality space, the retail space, designing high-end offices, and asking them to come and design our interiors and our exteriors to execute on something really nice. Every single one of our stores, we do a completely unique individualized rendering and 3D walkthrough of, and we show this to cities, and it's been huge for us to be able to get both zoning approval and increasingly government incentives and financial incentives, sales tax breaks, real estate tax breaks, and so on, from these municipalities that get really excited that you're not just going to build another truck stop in town. Yeah. As part of this, in the city of Mercedes, development that we did, I think another aspect I want to kind of key in on that, in my opinion, is going to be increasingly important for our ability to successfully execute on travel center projects, and one, get them approved, and two, actually make money, is focusing on the real estate piece and who some of your co-tenants are going to be. So at this location in Mercedes, we were able to co-develop with Chick-fil-A, and we worked with them. We did we did a build-to-suit for them, and having them located next to the store, one, obviously got us a lot of extra business. I think it's probably the only truck stop in the country where you can fuel your truck and then you can walk into a Chick-fil-A and eat there. But also, again, earned us tremendous goodwill and excitement from the city. And in my opinion, as our industry becomes more and more competitive and more travel centers are really upgrading the amenities, the co-tenancy that you have and your ability to bring in other users to surround you and benefit from those land sales is going to be critical. Here's another example of a store where we tried to get creative. We had a convenience store that my father built in the mid-2000s. Hopefully you guys think the signs are funny. So we were able to purchase some of the land surrounding the convenience store, and we added 50 truck parking spots, several diesel lanes with Pilot Flying J. This is in Burleson, Texas. The one kind of pickle that we had is that the walk is really, really far from the parking spots to the store. We tried our best to do a really nice landscaped area on the way, and as you guys know, sometimes truckers can be irritable, especially if they have a long walk. And so we tried to put up some signs that, I don't know how well you could read those, that may make them feel better on their approximately 9-minute walk from the parking area into the store. If y'all don't like it, we can just fire the guy that wrote those jokes on the signs. It was actually me, so I thought they were funny. All right, so another way that we are trying to kind of up our game as it relates to our travel center offering and our real estate branding is with QSRs. So I think there's been in my opinion, really positive development in our industry in the last several years where the optionality that we have in terms of QSR brands is getting better and better all the time. I think a lot of the major restaurant conglomerates, focus brands, Inspire brands, Yum, so on and so forth, have come around to the idea of non-traditional development and that travel centers can be a really good avenue for our growth. However, in my opinion, I still think that very often, I'm not going to name any brands, but very often, maybe in our business, we're taking the low-hanging fruit and we're putting in brands that, yes, they'll approve us, yes, they'll come in our locations, but they don't really get customers excited about coming. And so we spent about 3 years begging Starbucks to approve us and to allow us to become technically licensees, not franchisees, but same thing. 2 months ago, we opened our very first Starbucks in a travel center in Van, Texas, again with Pilot, and it's been doing phenomenal. So the nearest Starbucks isn't for 16 miles, and although it's, we have more than 100 truck parking spots there, we're building, you can see in the back, a truck shop. We're finding that 70-80% of our customers coming into our Starbucks are locals, and we have folks that are driving 10, 15 miles away just to be able to come in. So most of these brands usually are extremely hesitant and don't really want to partner with travel centers for reasons that I think everybody can guess at. But I think if you're able to present them and show that you're going to have a really, really nice quality operation and you're not going to diminish their brand, they'll come around to it. This location, for example, you can sort of see it in that photo at the bottom right. We agreed with Starbucks that we would wall off the Starbucks from the rest of the store, and the interior of the Starbucks would be its completely secluded, kind of defined space. Here's some photos of that. So the top and right photos are pictures of the newest Starbucks in Van, Texas, and at the bottom left, we have a travel center in Tyler, Texas, that we are removing we have a Sonic that's operating there, and we're remodeling it to put in a Starbucks, and you can see what those renderings look like. Cool. So it's been kind of amazing, the growth of the franchise networks between TA and Pilot and even Roadies and Ambest. And the kind of increased popularity of the truck stop business in general. I think it's awesome that more and more folks are getting into our industry. However, I think maybe everybody can feel to a degree that the same pie possibly is being split different ways. And my humble opinion on that is that we should try to find ways to improve the offering at our current locations just as much or maybe more as we're trying to find greenfield sites and NTIs, because competition is for losers. The short and sweet version is, as Peter Thiel talks about, competition is for losers in that certainly competition can make you better at whatever that you are doing. However, in competing more with somebody else in your category, in our case in travel centers, what you end up doing is emulating them. And so what we all end up doing, it's good to a degree that we're raising the quality of the developments that we have, but increasingly, all of our travel centers look the same. We all have the same brands. We all have the same offerings. We all have the same amenities. And so competition is for losers because the most successful companies in the world of any kind, think Google and Google search, for example, Microsoft with Microsoft Word, you name it, because they do something completely unique, completely individualized, that's really, really hard to emulate. And I don't have a perfect example that I could give to everybody because, of course, if I could give you a perfect example, everybody would do it, and then we'd be back to square one. But I do want to give a couple of examples following this slide of a couple of companies that I think are doing a good job in their own way. So one of the, I talked a little bit earlier about the proliferation, and I think incredible success of the Pilot 19 and TA franchise networks, as well as Roadies and Ambest and some others. I think probably what everybody feels, and the point I want to drive home once again, is that based off of what I've read, I've heard that Love's, I think last year, targeted 50 stores, and they built maybe around 40. I think Pilot and TA are each trying to and striving to build, or franchise 20 or 25 different locations a year. So I think this is, of course, fantastic if you're getting into the system and being part of a network, and you can grow and do well. However, I think we could probably all agree, in the United States, I think there was something like a 1 or 2% decline in diesel volume last year. And so if you're going to be adding, at a bare minimum, 50 branded locations, maybe 75 to 100 that are part of networks, and then several dozen unbranded locations there, I think we end up cutting the same pie many, many times over. I think that has a overall negative effect on the industry as a whole. And again, in my personal view, what we should be doing, what we try to do by really diving deep into controlling the supply chain of our jerky, for example, and making our stores operate as well as we can, is improving the quality of the stores that we have, remodeling and rebranding the stores that we have, and as some of the earlier panelists talked about, making your store a restaurant, making your store a destination, and doing something different, instead of trying to kind of fight a unwinnable battle for market share that's dwindling. So I don't want to be a negative Nancy about that, but I think as an industry here, it's something we should really consider. So one of the big points I'll drive on later as well is I think that in my opinion, take it or leave it, and it's not really worth much, the day of being able to profitably build a large format travel center, think 10, 15,000 square feet plus, 100 truck parking spots plus, and be able to do enough volume to be able to make it really profitable with today's construction cost and interest rate. I think those opportunities are fewer and fewer, far between, and in the near to intermediate future is probably going to come down to zero. Part of that is because of, again, the increased competition, but another significant driver is the fact that over the coming years, I think everybody is aware of the onset of alternative fuels, but not only do we have alternative fuels, but trucking companies are finding new ways to become more and more efficient every single day, and critically, every major distribution, every major consumer products company is focusing on reducing their transport costs by building local distribution centers in every city that they can to reduce the time that they can deliver to the consumer. And so all of you folks are in the real estate business. I'm sure everybody has noticed a huge amount of industrial developments that are happening in cities all across the country. The purpose of these industrial developments and of these warehouses is to reduce, unfortunately, their dependence on us and the need to send trucks hundreds or thousands of miles to transport goods. And instead, the focus is going to be on that last mile, final mile distribution. I'm not trying to, the point of this isn't to be doom and gloom. The point of this is to say, let's see what the next slide was. The point of this is to say, I think what we're trying to do and what I might encourage everybody here as my peers to do is consider developing possibly smaller format stores in these urban areas, in these suburban areas. We're working to try and partner with industrial developers where we are in Dallas and in nearby localities, and instead of, again, fighting to, anybody can get zoning in a town of 1,000 or 2,000 people to build a 5 or 10 lane truck stop with 50 or 100 truck parking spots. What I think is really different and can give you the ability to have strong volumes with a good moat, with excellent margins, is being able to find those urban industrial centers or be part of an industrial redevelopment and be the fueling solution for these last mile and final mile suppliers. And I think if you can get into that, instead of building a 10, 15 acre truck stop that's going to cost you $15 or $20 million, you can build a 2 or 3 acre truck stop, much smaller format, maybe $6, $8, $10 million. And I think you can be much more effective with your ROI. So a couple of examples of, I talked about, again, competition being for losers, and I think the importance of our ability to find individualized different ways to drive value we've talked a lot about Buc-ee's. They're amazing in a lot of ways. I think something that's maybe actually underappreciated, everybody knows how strong their brand and their cult following is, but their real estate strategy. A lot of us are going into these small and medium-sized towns, and we are the biggest job generator, the biggest revenue generator in this city, and very often we're an anchor in the municipalities in which we choose to locate. So in Terrell, Texas, I've got a store right up the street, unfortunately. In Terrell, Texas, Buc-ee's, you can see in 2012, it was all grass. In 2016, Buc-ee's built. Buc-ee's actually purchased 40 plus acres of land. Every single pad site on both sides of the road that Buc-ee's is on, they bought. And they did ground leases or sold every single lot that you can see there on the right. I'm going to guess that they made more money selling that real estate than they ever will in the operations of their store, which in itself is really, really robust. And so I think naturally it's more expensive to buy a lot of that land, but I think you can kind of be in a virtuous cycle, in a self-fulfilling prophecy where the users and the tenants that you're able to bring reinforce your store, makes your store stronger, makes the tenants better, and then that in itself generates more tenant interest and allows you to hopefully turn what was a completely barren intersection in Terrell, Texas into an extremely dynamic development. Now, I think we all realize, I realize that none of us are Buc-ee's, at least I don't think anybody from Buc-ee's is here. If you are, come say hi to me after. But I think nonetheless, we probably underestimate, especially if we're able to deliver a really nice location, a really great localized brand the city is excited about. I think maybe we underestimate our ability to purchase additional land and be proactive in driving development ourselves. Another good example of somebody doing something different, I think, is Love's. And so Love's has been on a really big push with their RVs. And so this is, at the top is a picture of an RV park recently built in Tyler, Texas. And then at the bottom is a screenshot of what that layout looks like. I think there's probably a few folks here that have built or are operating around RV parks. I don't know the exact statistics off the top of my head. I've read that something to the effect of there are 11 or 12 RVs on the road for every 1 to 2 actual RV parking spots available that has sewer and water and electrical hookups there. And so I think, again, increasingly, as we're fighting for the same gallons on the road, different ways to bring in different customers that we haven't been able to draw in before can make a lot of sense. Finally, so this location is an example. I talked a little bit earlier about how I think finding those urban infill locations is going to be really, really important to being able to drive growth. At the top is just so you don't think I'm making stuff up and telling you guys to do things. At the top is a gas station truck stop that it's only 3,500 square feet that we were able to build on a really small lot. We worked with the city to get the zoning and make it to where they weren't intimidated. And we've been really, really successful there. And we're right in the middle of the city of Garland, just 10 miles outside of Dallas. And so we are on this highway, I-30, we are the closest diesel destination to the city. And even though this location is a fraction of the size of some of our biggest travel centers, we are exceeding the volume of some of our best, biggest, brightest locations on the interstate. And the margins have been great too. And so for us, this is going to be an increasingly large part of our strategy, as much as we love to build the big Taj Mahals.
If you could dive in a little more to how you overcame some of the maybe negative perceptions folks had about travel centers to get a QSR in.
Yeah, thank you. Great question and well-timed. So I think there in the presentation earlier today, there was a really great comment made, which I totally agree with, which is you are a restaurant. And so we often tell our QSR partners, I will build my travel center around you. If there is any design specification, operational requirement, anything at all that your brand would prefer in any way, we are going to do and we're going to execute on it. I think there is a tendency, it's getting better and we're progressing well. I think everybody has realized the value both of QSR franchises as well as in-house brands. We talk about it really often. But I think, of course, over the years, it's kind of been a stepchild in our industry, and we're probably guilty of that at our company as well. I think that it's, I'll give one small example. I think we really try to design, for example, our stores on the exterior as well as the interiors, where having a location that is aesthetically consistent on the exterior is great. But you might have seen our van travel center where we really tried to be intentional about making the Starbucks look like a Starbucks, making the Wendy's look like a Wendy's. They did not necessarily require that of us. A lot of these brands have flexibility with us. But I think customers don't want to go to a truck stop restaurant. You don't want the folks in your town or your locality to feel like, oh, this is the, whatever it is, Wendy's or McDonald's that's in the truck stop. It's not the real Wendy's or McDonald's. So a couple of things we never compromise on. One, I never do express menus. We've kind of been bit by that, the hard way. A lot of brands, I won't name them, but a lot of brands will say, hey, this is our kind of full menu, and then we'll have an express, easy to operate menu for you in your store. I'm sure in some places that's been successful. For us, that has never worked. And the customer gets the impression that, oh, I can't use my loyalty points here. I can't get the item that I want here. This isn't a real XYZ brand. And then the second thing, as I mentioned earlier, is making sure from a design perspective, it in every way looks like the brand that you're putting in there.